everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Office Hours with the Professor, the show where I say things. Today, Cavemen Rule Part 3, Australopithecus, or Lucy et al. But first, a disclaimer. Today we're going to be covering a huge period on the scale of millions of years in just a few minutes. And that's not because this period is any less interesting or worthy of study than others, but because I want to focus more in this series on the emergence of, quote, people as we think of them. So that is, in the words of paleoanthropologist John Shea, behavioral variability. But to really enjoy the wonder of personhood's emergence, we need a little background information, which will be covered in this video and in the next. So let's start by jumping into our Wu-Tang elevator and going back to the Africa of around 3 million years ago. So, as we begin to explore our new surroundings, we become familiar with a few different creatures that belong to what we know as the genus Australopithecus or Australopithecus. And that's a Latin word. What it means is austral, like southern. For example, Australia is just southern place, right? So austral, southern, pithecus, ape. So the southern ape. Okay, and this is a genus. We would have seen these guys as decidedly more chimpanzee-like than human-like, with one important difference. Australopithecus walked upright. Okay, so there were a few different species of Australopithecus, and they seem to have been around generally between 2 and 4 meow. So the different Australopithecus species show variation according to a theme that's very, very important in the study of human origins: robustness versus gracility. That is, a heavier set build as opposed to a lighter, less brawny physical morphology. So consider, for instance, the robust gorilla of modern times as opposed to the more gracile bonobo or gracile. Gracile, take your pick. Bonobo. So gorillas live in this dense jungle, this rainforest where you really don't need to run from anything. And they also rely on tough, hard to chew stems and shoots for their food, which leads to them needing big, strong jaw muscles to chew everything. Now, on the other hand, the forests inhabited by the bonobo are a lot less dense, and they rely on softer, easier to chew fruits. Australopithecus, on the other hand, didn't even live in this less dense forest. They lived out away from the forest on the savanna, which made it necessary for them to stand up and look out over the tall grass, which helped them evolve this bipedalism. So Australopithecus was therefore evolutionarily pressured by a treeless environment for greater gracility. Since they were less brawny, they became more reliant on tools. And this set of traits gradually led to the emergence of the genus Homo around 2.5 meow. So, what was Australopithecus like? Of course, most of us are familiar with the iconic Lucy, who was discovered in 1974.
Picture yourself in a boat on a river with...
It's kind of funny. When I was a little kid, I saw this skeleton, the picture, of course, and the way the jawbone was placed, I thought for the longest time that she was smiling, and I always thought to myself, why is she smiling? She's dead. Anyway, now as we can see from the photo, we have her leg bones and her pelvis, and these have led us to the conclusion that she walked a lot more like us than chimpanzees. She was definitely bipedal. However, we don't have much of her skull. That said, although Lucy is a lot more famous, we also have a beautiful skull of an infant Australopithecus from Ethiopia that its discoverers have named very, very beautifully, I think, Salam. So, of course, maybe you already know if you speak Arabic or Hebrew, but salam is the word for peace in many of the Afro-Asiatic languages. And the language spoken in this part of Ethiopia uses the same word. So, little peace baby here, wonderful name, what a nice name, was very, very well preserved skull. Okay, and let's take a look at what she looked like in real life. Oh, isn't she cute? Anyway, when paleoanthropologists examined this wonderfully preserved skull, along with some others that we found, it becomes clear that their skulls were a lot more like those of chimpanzees than humans. So, for instance, their brains appear to have been comparable in size to those of modern chimps. Their behavior was probably not much more human-like than chimpanzees either, although it was recently discovered that they were able to use stone tools. On the other hand, there is one very compelling piece of evidence that there was, even at this time, just a spark of something amazing, something incredible going on in the brains of these creatures. It is possible that among Australopithecus abstract thoughts, the idea that one thing could represent another thing was already in its infancy. At a site associated with Australopithecus fossils in, and I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Makgadikgadi Cave in South Africa, an unassuming jasperite pebble was found, which was naturally shaped in such a way that it crudely resembles a human-like face. Now, of course, there's lots of natural stuff that looks like other stuff. Just think of clouds in the sky. But the eerie thing about Makgadikgadi Pebble is that it is of a geologically different composition from the surrounding environment. The nearest source of jasperite is miles away. The chances of it somehow getting to Makgadikgadi by itself are astronomically, negligibly small. It had to, even as I say this, I get chills up my spine. It had to have been carried there. That is, it is what we call a manuport. So even if you don't speak Latin, you probably already have this word figured out. Just like manufacture, to make something by hand, this is manuport. So to carry something by, again, manu, hands, right? So a manuport is an object that was not actually modified by intelligent human, or in this case, Australopithecine activity, but it was carried by them. And this is really, really important. Just amazing. Now, the pebble is small enough to carry without any trouble. It's about half a pound, and it could have easily been held in one hand. It would not have made a very good tool given its shape, and certainly not one useful enough to carry miles away from where it was found. What appears to have happened is that somewhere around 3 million years ago, an Australopithecus found this thing, looked at it, and a synapse fired somewhere in his little monkey mind, flashing like lightning on the horizon. He found this pebble, thought, hey, this looks like me. That is, he had an abstract thought and considered this interesting enough to take back to camp to show his buddies. I wish I could have been there to see the Australopithecus find this thing. I'd give $1,000,000 just to find out exactly what went through his mind, I guess, or her mind, and what significance it had. Wow! So, would you like to see the Makgadikgadi pebble? Of course you would. Here it is, the oldest face in the world. So how cool is that, huh? I love this. When we look at this pebble, we experience exactly the same jolts of recognition and see exactly the same face and features that someone saw 3 million years ago. We are sharing an experience with one of our ancestors over a gap of 3 million years. Isn't that cool? See, even at this early stage, we're seeing the faintest flickers and glimmers of what someday would make us people. Pretty cool, huh? So, next time we're going to talk about the transition from Australopithecus to Homo and what we know about the very earliest members of our genus. See you next time.